Hi and welcome to my review of the Blade 9 e-scooter from Minimotors. Today I'm gonna tell you why I love this very much and about a little bit about the pros and the cons that you maybe not hear anywhere else. So I'm going to be as honest as I can and tell you my personal opinion and what you can do to get the most out of the scooter, because I think that's maybe the most important part here. I like it a lot, but the first time I picked it up and I got it out of the box and actually tried to stand on it, it was actually the different opinions. I said, oh my God, it's not really good, because when I put it out, it had a different controller than it has now. It had a different display than it has now, and it had a different handlebar. And the handlebar were the same, but it was mounted a lot different. And this all, while the rest of the scooter is the same, but this makes such a difference that you actually would think it's a completely different scooter. So if you purchase the Blade 9, put some attention in which version you actually get, because it makes a lot of a difference. So what I have here, and that's the version I really like, is the version with the Minimotors display and the semi-hydraulic brakes. And most importantly for me, as I'm a relatively tall guy, I'm 1 meter 93, I have two adapters for the handlebar. So it's not the original clamp here that holds the handlebar, because the original handlebar was like, I show you, yep, was like this here, yeah, and you see that there's a big difference, yeah. So if the handlebar is here, yes, okay, like this, right way around, it was for me, it was like that, yeah. It was not very comfortable, and I couldn't stand a long time on it. But the good thing about the Blade 9 is that it can be tuned a lot to your liking. The handlebar stem ends up in a 28.6 millimeter diameter part, and this part can fit with almost any normal handlebar adapter. So I have here a part that makes it longer and a little bit higher, and a part that puts it a little bit more in front, because that's the next thing. With the original version, it was like this, yeah. It was much down, too short, and it was too much near my chest. So that was not very comfortable to hold, because if you want to hold it in the right way, you want it a little bit to have your arms stretched a little bit more, so you're more stable. If you have it like this, it's not that comfortable. And with many shorter scooters, like this, it's not a really big model, but it's also not a really small model. It's right in between. And for me, these two things made a lot of difference. And we are a reseller. My wife is the boss of a company that sells scooters, and small company, and we have this model, and we use this version with these adapters because we think it's so much more comfortable. Maybe with the exception if you're like 1 meter 60, like this tall, then or a kid, then you would just take out this part of the adapter, put the handlebar more down, and then it's okay. Yeah? It's still okay. But I think this is the nicest version. The handlebar here we use is pretty straight. It has a long straight part in the middle. That means it's very easy to mount lights that point forward, and not because it's curved, point in any direction where you don't want it. And you have still enough space to put your cell phone there with a cell phone holder or whatever you like. You have this voltage and key. you have the turn signals, you have the lights button, you have the horn. I don't show it now because it's really loud. I like it, but I only use it if I have to, because it annoys people and it annoys the people around here. What I really liked is with the Minimotors display, and okay, this is a little bit maybe a promotion for Minimotors, but their display, it looks a little bit old-fashioned. Okay, I get that. It's a normal LCD display with a green background light, but it's so much easier to read in sunlight because the LCD technology, the old LCD, like the old LCD clocks, can be read in any brightness, and it can be also read in total darkness. But these OLED displays that should be much newer technology, but they are much harder to read because they have to make the brightness themselves and be brighter than the sun, and that's really hard on a sunny day. And with the LCD, they are black. The screen is black, so it's not a really problem if the sun is very bright. It can be read exactly the same as if it's really dark. And what is also a very good thing that the Minimotors version has is it has a very direct throttle pickup. So you press the throttle, it goes off like a rocket, and you press the brakes, and if you have the electronic brakes on, like I really like the electronic brakes of the Minimotors single controller scooters. So the scooters that have the Minimotors display and throttle with one controller, so the dual motors is a little bit different, but with the single motors versions, you have the electronic brake in exactly the right strength. You have 5 settings. Maybe 5 is a little bit strong, but 3 and 4 is very good for the taste of almost everyone. So 3 is gentle, but good. Yeah? So you feel the electronic brake, it breaks you down pretty well, but gently. And 4 is the same, but strong. So even if you push it at a very slow pace, you feel when you press the brakes that it really slows down a lot. So I can show you it also reacts very abruptly. So you press the brake, it brakes, and it brakes really well. I use it on the strange setting 4, it's like this. Okay, this was the rear brake with a mechanical brake. Now the front brake, and only the electronic brake works. It's almost the same, yeah, you see? So what I do in the scooter is I only press the front brake a bit, and it cuts off the motor, and works on the electronic brake. And the electronic brake does, let's say, 90% of the braking. I really love it. It's snippy, yeah. So you press the accelerator, it runs off. You press the brake, it brakes. So what is a big difference to other scooters with not the Minimotors version is that the other scooters, they slowly get to pace, they slowly pick up speed, and then you brake at some point to get slower, and yeah. And here it is, you go off like a rocket up till the very last second, push the brakes, and you only push the front brake lever a bit, so the electronic brake kicks in to stand still. You push it a little bit more because then you act on the front brake, the mechanical brake as well. So you have front and rear wheel braked, and it works really well. It works as good, or in some cases better, than a hydraulic brake without all the hassle of these electronic brakes. The scooter has a 28.8 amp hour battery, 48 volt, which is a lot, a really big battery. And this not only means that you can drive a long range, like I expect if you're not driving full speed, I would say you can do 100 kilometers or more on a very heavy person that drives full speed, which is for this scooter with the Minimotors version, full speed is around 40 kilometers per hour with really charged full. You can get like 42, 43. Uphill, even it's still 38, so it doesn't really slow down uphill much. If it's a steep hill, of course, it slows down, but it's really good at hills. But you have the benefit with the electronic brake that as the battery is so big, the impact if you brake electronically and it recovers energy is very small comparatively. So it's not only with exactly the right strength, the electronic brake, it's also not bad for the battery. Because on a very small battery, a high load from electronic braking and fast charging that this induces is not really good. But here it's perfectly balanced. The next thing I like a lot is actually the handling. So for me, it's okay. It's very comfortable because of the high handlebars. It's 106 centimeters from the deck in this configuration. Perfect for me. But also that with these tires and the suspension is medium strength. So it's not really hard, but it's also not really soft. You always have a good connection to the street. You have a good cornering handling. What I like a lot is that for a small scooter they put in a pretty good suspension. So the rear has these springs and you can tune it a little bit up and down. It always feels, however, it's rated as 1500 lbs per inch. So that means if the suspension is pushed up 1 inch, it lets you feel a load of 1500 lbs, which is not really you feel it, but the scooter, as there is a lever arm and it has like, here is the wheel, here is the suspension, so it moves less. If the wheel itself moves like 1 inch up, the suspension only moves like 1/3 of an inch up. So you feel like 500 lbs if the wheel is lifted 1 inch. Yeah, like it works a little bit like that. So if you are a very light person, I would recommend to change the spring to like 1000 lbs per inch. You can buy from China or from a local shop a cheap ass spring like Amazon or whatsoever, yeah, or from us. I have here 1000 lbs per inch. It was $12 the whole thing. I could just change the spring because this silver one I don't like the appearance, but unscrew it, take the spring, put it in here and have a softer suspension, which is really easy. It's 135 millimeters, the whole eye to eye, and I think it has about 2.5 centimeters of travel, which with this lever arm, so if the spring here moves, let's say 2 centimeters, then here where the wheel is, it's like 6-7 centimeters. So pretty fine. And even if you do a big jump, I tried it with bigger jumps over not only curbs, but from higher curbs like this, or from small, it's not really a hill, it's yeah, from Sprungschanze. Then you feel that it still don't bottom out the spring and it feels good. It's not super soft, but it's perfectly balanced for faster street riding, and you always have a good feeling if you use the stock suspension. On the front there's a small spring in it and a rubber bumper, so you have a little bit of soft travel and then you hit the rubber bumper and it gets harder. So it helps with the big bumps as well as the small bumps. I really like that. So the tuning is good, but if you don't like it, you can still exchange the springs front and rear, and it's each like 10, 5, $15 depending on what you use, but it's really cheap to change the suspension. And I would recommend it if you are really not happy with it. Let's say you're a very big guy, should still be okay, but if you are very very small and very light, you could still make it softer, not only by tuning it but also by changing the springs. What I also like a lot is the new light they added. There is a headlight that's pretty bright for a normal light, that version. That's a very commonly recommended light, and it has 3 settings. And on the highest setting, this light, it's still pretty much less bright, maybe even a lot less bright than, and a lot less focused than the light that comes with this one, with the scooter. So this light you can actually, you don't even need it. I have a 150 euro Busch & Müller light, and this one, okay, this is a lot better. But if you don't have anything else than this light that comes with the scooter, it's still a lot better than many other scooters with additional headlight up here. So I can really recommend to try it out. And maybe if you don't ride often in the night, you don't even need much more than this. So I really like it. So it's not exclusive to Minimotors, but I like all the scooters that have this light because it's a very, very good light. We have on the Blade 9 the semi-hydraulic, the Zoom semi-hydraulic brakes. I also like them. They are maybe not as good as the really high-end or medium-end hydraulic brakes, but for a semi-hydraulic brake it's pretty fine. The difference to the standard brakes that brake as well is that the semi-hydraulic brakes have pistons that come from both sides, and the standard brake only one side moves and typically bends the disc to the other side. And what happens then is if you, as it bends the disc, it really stops the scooter and it blocks the reel. So with the standard brakes, if you set them up really well, you brake about as good, but it's only on and off. So if you brake, it blocks the wheel, and if you don't, you drive. But with the semi-hydraulic brakes, you can pretty much fine-tune how much you want to brake. And if you, you have to really pull the brakes to make a full stop, but 2 fingers are okay, so you don't need the whole hand. 2 fingers are okay. Then you can pretty much go to a halt very quick. But on this scooter you have the good electronic brakes, and this helps it a lot. Not only do you save a lot on the brake pads, because like I said before, 90% is braking from the electronic brake from me, but also you augment the strength of the normal cable actuated brakes, and this is really, really helpful with these medium quality brakes. They really need the help. What you have other than the headlight is also pretty good. I have to switch it on again. Pretty good front additional lights here. So they are good to be seen, pretty bright, and also can be seen from a wide angle. You have the rear lights here that also can be seen from a good angle. You have the turn lights. They are only helpful for the ones behind you. So this is maybe something that I would like to see improved, is to have also front turn lights, maybe in the handlebars or here somewhere, so that you have these turn light signals already. You just could wire additional turning lights, but they don't have it by default. So that's something I like to see improved. And you have the brake lights, which are separate to the rear lights. That's also something I like a lot, because it's more obvious that you brake if additional brake lights light up than it is if a brake light just starts to blink. This is the better version. I like it more. What you also have is these LED strips in here. They are 12 volt, which is great, because It's very easy to just change them to any color you like. You get a 12-volt LED strip. If you can solder, yeah, then you can solder it other than the original one. You just change it and you'll be done. Yeah, you can also put in the RGB LED strips and have a controller for it, or whatever you like. The Minimotors version of the Blade 9 comes with a 5 amp 12-volt converter. Of this, maybe 1.5 amps are used, so you have a lot of power left for all the applications you want, which is pretty great. What I also like about the scooter is that you have a carry handle here, and you need it because the scooter is pretty heavy. It has a motor that is rated for 500 watt, but built more like an 800 watt motor, which means it can take a lot of power until it overheats. You have a 500 watt motor that is powered by the controller that can put out 1400 watt as a maximum. So that's pretty much. And it really has a good torque uphill. I tried with my White and with the scooter and got up a hill of about 11 degrees, which doesn't sound much, but in reality it is much. So most of the scooters of this category struggle a lot or don't even make it up that hill. So you need a lot of power to get up an 11-degree hill. Most of the claims you see, scooters are claimed, smaller scooters, like they can do 20 degrees of hill climb, but that's not even remotely true. The next thing that I really like here is that the motors have tubeless tires on them, and these are 9-inch tires. I found to like a lot because I didn't have a flat, but on one tire, on the front tire, the air didn't really hold in, and I didn't notice because the tire is so strutty that it can basically run flat. Yeah, so if you happen to have a flat, you could just drive home and maybe you don't even notice. But I filled in a tire sealant and now it works fine. I guess it was just not perfectly on the rim. What I like about the tires is that other than many others I have seen, it's pretty easy and good centered, so it's not much tire wobble and it's not much to do to balance the tire. So it has a good feeling, a good stable feeling on it, and it's a pretty wide tire, which helps to not get into rails of a tramway or something like that. And you don't really feel that much difference that I would have expected to a 10-inch tire. So it's 9-inch, but with these tires I have a pretty great feeling, and that I have driven with many 10-inch tires that I liked less. That doesn't mean that there are not better 10-inch tires, but there are many worse 10-inch tires than this 9-inch tire. So it's pretty great. What could be improved a little bit is this fender. It looks nice and it helps to fend off the splash and rain that comes from the tire to you, but it doesn't really protect the rear of the scooter, and it splashes right into the spring, which is not pretty great. So this could be better. And on the front you have this plastic added to the fender, which helps a bit, but they could have made it just a little bit bigger. You can do it yourself, so it's not really a problem, but this could have been a little bit improved. What I also like is that on the stem they have these inlets and outlets a little bit around it, so there is not a sharp edge. That's pretty cool. That means even if you don't have a perfect wrapping here, it still won't break all the cables. It doesn't look that perfect here on my unit because I have stretched this very far, so it's not the original size and height. and I would have to change this wrapping with a longer one, which I just didn't do for now. But that's my fault, not Minimotors. And the same thing is true down here. So I have put much more emphasis to have here a good covering of the cable than down to the cable inlet itself. Which brings me to another part. Here is the passage of the cable into the deck. There's a lot of space in the deck left, even with the biggest battery, and you have enough space to put in your GPS tracker or whatsoever you want. But be aware that it's very well isolated electronically, so maybe it's not the best position inside because you won't get a good signal. But otherwise, the deck inside is isolated very well, and it would be very easy to have it waterproofed. It comes rated as 54, but I would say it's okay like it comes. So splash water can't come directly in, and it has a very thick and good rubber surrounding cover that helps a lot to fend off the water. But it could be, yeah, you can improve it yourself a little bit if you seal all the remaining edges and surroundings. And this is not really hard on this scooter because it's not much to seal. Maybe just here from the front, it's pretty tight anyways, but there is a small gap. It's not an open gap, but you see two parts are just ejected to each other, and here you put the sealing and you're done. So that's pretty great. What you have to do on the scooter, like on most other scooters, if you get it, check all the screws. Most of mine were good. Some had to be tightened a little bit more, but okay, that's what I expect on a scooter. It's just the way it is. And what others to mention, here is the folding mechanism. It folds a little bit like you see it on other scooters. It has the same mechanism that is used on these, like, I think Inokim and some others use this. Also the Kugo G2, it's pretty much the same, yeah, on the Kugo. This is with a lever that you pull, and then you can fold it. On first sight, it looks a little bit like these Xiaomi things, but it's a lot different. It's a lot wider. It's a lot more sturdy. So this not only does have no play, but it also will work a lot longer than on this Xiaomi-like, and so because it's much thicker and wider and therefore less prone to have any problems. And it's hard to show, but there is very, very little wobble on the scooter. So you can a little bit flex the stem and these steering parts here. So they bend a little bit if you push hard, but it's not a wobble. So you really have to push and pull that you feel a little bit. And the feeling is really great. It's not this typical, you see these commercials or this where the people that test the scooter, they get on the scooter and they jump a lot and jump up. But that doesn't really make sense because that only means that the scooter is super bouncy. And here it's suspended, you feel it, but it's not, it doesn't throw you in the air. And it shouldn't, yeah, really. So it's perfectly balanced. There is the pretty normal kickstand. Up. I'll show it again. That's the same kickstand than you find on many scooters. I don't have a problem with that, other than I had to put some shoes on it so it doesn't scratch my floor, but it's pretty well. These reflective stickers are added by myself. That's a must-have in Austria where I live. So these don't come standard, but I guess it's a good idea to have them. And yeah, I guess that's it. What are the pros and cons of this scooter in short order? Good headlight, the tall handlebars, the good Minimotors controller, the good combination of the brakes, the good acceleration and torque, maybe not the highest speed, but a good speed, a very big battery, and a good suspension. Not the best suspension, but a good mix of with a good street performance. It's good, it's agile, very agile. What's also good, I like the tires. So especially these tubeless tires I like a lot. The motors are good and strong, so that's also a big benefit. What's not perfect is that the turning signals are only on the rear. That could be improved with turning signals on the front. The scooter could be a little bit lighter. So my unit has 26 kilograms, and I know it's not a small scooter. It can drive a very long distance. It feels great, but it's not the most transportable scooter. And in this version, with the bigger motors and the bigger battery, it's not really a commuter that you take on the bus or in the train. You drive the whole way with it because it makes fun. It's really great, but it's not something you would like to carry many flights of stairs. What I also like to see improved, it's okay, but it could be better, are the fenders. Front is okay by now, but the rear, it could be just a little bit bigger.